So Durara is back with the second arc of Season 2. Now first off I want to say if you want to know all my thoughts and opinions on the series as a whole, there will be a video for that, most likely next week, where I will discuss in more detail why I love this show so much, but for now I'm just going to be talking about the first episode of the new arc, so if you're all caught up, then let's get started. Now, Izaya friggin' stole the show in this episode, which, tends to happen a lot. Now, of course, the last episode ended on a cliffhanger with him getting stabbed. However, he is perfectly fine. It was a pretty bad injury, but he's in the hospital, he's recovered, and he'll be out soon. And he is just as crazy as ever. Now, we also know from the last episode before this one, that the guy who stabbed him, his name was Yodogiri, who seems like he's going to be a force to be reckoned with in this new arc. Because Shinra's father was talking to, some other dude. To be honest, it kind of takes me a while to, remember everyone's name in this show, just because there's so many characters. Anyway, Shinra's father, he's saying that, Yodogiri, he's not a guy you should be messing with, and, Zaya somehow messed with him and he ended up in the hospital, so yeah. So the cops are there asking him questions, and this leads to one of my favorite scenes in this episode. Basically, Izaya calls Shinra, and Shinra doesn't seem to care that he's been stabbed, so Izaya basically gets the cops to call him, and because of course he is an underground doctor, that kind of freaked him out when the cops gave him a call, and I thought that was hilarious. I'm glad to see that the humor of Durara is still here. Another big thing that happened in this episode is that a girl who basically Izaya stopped from committing suicide, which is a thing that, as we've seen in the past, he likes to do, she basically wanted revenge because he made her not want to kill herself. So she shows up at his hospital room and tries to murder him. Now we don't actually see the outcome of what happens here because, of course, it's Durara, and so what's probably going to happen is that we'll see a scene with Izaya all fine, and then they'll do flashbacks, because that happens a lot in this series, but I actually really like it because it builds suspense. We really don't know what's going to happen to Izaya and this other girl, but she's a bit nuts. She comes at him with a knife, and he does his crazy acrobatics thing and pins her down. Then he gets up on the bed and starts laughing about how much he loves humans. I friggin' love Izaya. Now at the end of the episode, we see Alba, or as I like to call him, Little Izaya. He shows up to Shinra and Celti's place, and he basically says, "I want to be friends with you guys." And we can see his hand. It still has that fresh wound that Mikado gave him, because this second arc takes place, literally just a day after the ending of the last one. Now, I have a feeling that this arc is going to be a much darker for Mikado, because it seems that he is going down, a dark path. At the end of the last arc, of course, he friggin' stabbed a pen through Alba's hand. And usually, Mikado's completely against violence. He's like, guys, you gotta stop hitting people, it's not nice. But he just, stabs a friggin' pen through the guy's hand and makes a blood contract with him. And of course, Mikado is now the leader of the Blue Squares, who are back now. They're Alba and his gang. Because, of course, Alba was brothers with the old guy who was leaders of the Blue Squares before he got arrested. Now, this reminds me a lot of the character arc that Masami went through back in the first series of Durara, because he wanted to leave the Yellow Scarves and be done with it, and also, of course, Izaya told Mikado to stay away from the dollars for a while, but, of course, he got roped back into everything, and now he is not only the leader of the dollars, but also the leader of the Blue Squares. Masami is also back in town. Now, I'm not sure what role Masami is going to play in this arc, but he did say in this episode that he wants nothing more than basically for things to be back to the way they were with him, Mikado, and Henri. But one thing I found very interesting is that in the opening and ending, which I'll talk about in a second, he's wearing a yellow scarf, which of course implies that he is going to join the Yellow Scarves again. Now, we do know that the Yellow Scarves are still around, but we barely got to see them at all in the last arc, and we don't really know what kind of shape they're in. It has been, I think it's 6 months or something, since the ending of the first series and the Yellow Scarves arc. So I'm interested to see basically what's up with the Yellow Scarves now, since, you know, their leader got arrested, as well as most of them, you know, were originally Blue Squares, and all of the guys that Masami knew are pretty much gone now. So I'm not sure if he'll just step in and be the leader of the Yellow Scarves again, or if he's going to basically, you know, recreate the Yellow Scarves with all the original guys. Anyway, so of course, with this new arc, we got a new opening and ending. And, well, with the opening, I have a feeling that I'm going to warm up to it by the end of this season, just because it was the same thing with the last arc in January. At first, I didn't really care about the opening, but as time went on, I started to really like it, and then, of course, I watch it, I'll hum along and all that stuff. But it was never really as good as the opening from the two openings from the first series, which I thought were fantastic. But I really like what these openings do, as they basically just scroll through all the characters and, you know, display their names and whatever. But it's really cool because you kind of get to see how all the characters and their lives are all connected to each other's. Now, the ending, however, was really friggin' awesome. Now, the ending songs of anime aren't really things you would talk about very much, but when it comes to this show, the endings are normally very good, and just from one listen, this ending song is awesome, and I'll probably stick around every single episode to watch the ending so I can get that little sneak peek of the next episode, which never gives anything away. So those were my thoughts on the first episode in this new arc of Durarara, and I'm very, very excited to review this weekly, because Durarara is easily one of my favorite anime series, and I'm just so happy that it's back. So with that, I will see you guys tomorrow for a review of the first episode of course, Dragon Ball Super.